Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now that Arch-Tempered VELKHANA is out, it's time for some new Frostcraft Greatsword updates as well as updates for Greatsword builds in general. I recently uploaded a video of the Greatsword build that I thought was perfect for universal play, but also said that I would update the build as soon as we got Arch-Tempered VELKHANA, since her armor pieces make for great additions to get the most out of our builds. So without further ado, let's get right into the builds. The first build is similar to the build from my last video, an Earplug Greatsword build. We used the same armor piece, the Fatalis, helmet, chest and gloves beta version with the alpha waist. The only difference is the greaves. We're using the new Arch-Tempered VELKHANA Gamma Greaves, which gives us the max peak performance and 2 points of quick sheath. We also get 3 points of evade window, which adds to the quality of life of the build. Unlike the last build, we're also able to get max focus. I opted out of using handicraft because, now that the event quests are back, you can easily farm for Wedfish Fins Plus, and the 4 hits of purple you get with the Fatalis armor and true razor sharp. It should be enough since the monster is sure to be dead before you need to sharpen again, or at least close to it. The only problem with this build is it only reaches 95% affinity. The next build is for people who want to prioritize their affinity. We use the same armor pieces, except we trade earplugs for level 5 maximum might, which gives us 40% affinity when active. As a result, we get Tool Specialist as a byproduct, which adds to our mantle's uptime, and can kind of be like your earplugs replacement since you'll have more access to your Rocksteady mantle. Since Maximum Might gives 40% affinity and Agitator gives us an additional 20% affinity, it means we don't have to augment for affinity, which means we can add to the attack of the Greatsword, while also adding a health regeneration augment to maintain peak performance. Now let's get into the Frostcraft builds. The first build uses a Safi Jiva Greatsword with complete attack augmentation and 1 VELKHANA augmentation. The status or element doesn't matter too much, but since the VELKHANA armor comes with ice, I just took advantage of it and chose an ice Greatsword. The build's pieces consist of the Gamma VELKHANA chest, waist and legs, with the 2 remaining pieces taking advantage of Fatalis 2-piece set bonus, which gives us max agitator on the build. Since the affinity on the sword is positive, we only need 6 levels of critical eye, which gives us 40% affinity, so you just rely on agitator to close the affinity gap that the build needs, so that the build is not solely reliant on the crit draw play style. I added weakness exploit for TCS and regular Greatsword play. The next and final build is the Frostcraft Greatsword build using the new Black Fatalis Greatsword. We don't have the luxury of using 2 pieces of Fatalis armor, so we have make do with just a single piece of his armor in the form of his gloves, with the rest being the VELKHANA armor. This Greatsword needs a lot to work with the Frostcraft playstyle, from affinity to sharpness, so using a piece of Frostfang Barriath's armor for punishing draw just doesn't work. It's the same situation for the Safi Jiva Greatsword. If you use a piece of Frostfang Barriath's armor, then you lose Fatalis armor skill that lets you use max agitator, and to trade all of that extra raw damage in exchange for a chance of punishing draw working in your favor just isn't worth it, especially when the Safi Jiva Greatswords already do about 10% less damage than the new Fatalis Greatsword already. The handicraft for this build is pretty mandatory since you don't have a sharpness buffer. The 4 points of handicraft, however, more than makes up for it. Even with the lack of max agitator, this build still is able to outperform the Safi Jiva Frostcraft Greatsword build. So even in terms of Frostcraft play, this would be your preferred build to use. As I mentioned before, the punishing Greatsword builds are possible, but because you have to give up so much to use it, I didn't include them in the video. These builds were focused more on meta and practical builds, but as always, do what you feel comfortable with. It is a video game. But anyway, if you made it this far, I would like to thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to comment, like and share. It really helps the channel. But until next time, hunters, remember to stay classy and to hunt with style.